a lot of Ranger fans sit here making excuse after excuse after excuse. Some Rangers think Toronto is the reason why the Rangers didn't come out of this series. Not the Toronto Maple Leafs. Toronto, where the new NHL headquarters is. We could go back and forth on why the Rangers lost this series. Maybe they just thought after going up 2-0 that this series was over, and they really slowed down and made the Lightning feel that they can come back in this series. Or maybe it was their defense in Game 3, up 2-0, going into the third period, believe that they're not as good as they thought they were throughout the season, being that they were ranked second in all of hockey behind the Carolina Hurricanes in goals against. Or was it Shesterkin, who a lot of people believe played so well against Carolina, which the last 3 games that he did, and in the Lightning series, where all the Ranger fans think that he was just absolutely fabulous, he choked in Game 5 and 6, which possibly could have cost them this series. You look at this series, and I know a lot of people will quote what I have said, that I thought that the Rangers had a good season, but teams always hit a bump in the playoffs, being that they're the youngest team still in the playoffs. Connor McDavid and that Edmonton Oilers team going to the Western Conference Finals, the Avalanche, which is a young team, going to the Western Conference Finals, and a very veteran team like Tampa playing against the New York Rangers that have been to back-to-back Stanley Cup Finals and won both Stanley Cup Finals. But I don't even think that's what it was. What I think happened to the New York Rangers is just like I say about the Ranger fans. They all believe that the league is in cahoots with why they lost. The referees, or what some of our fans say, referees, gave the series to the Tampa Bay Lightning. That the NHL wanted the Tampa Bay Lightning in the Stanley Cup Finals. But not the fact that Vasilevskiy, who had a hideous first 2 games in the Eastern Conference Finals, finally figured things out, maybe got his legs under him. If nobody thinks that Vasilevskiy is one of the greatest goaltenders of this era, then I don't know what you're watching. What we saw in this series is that a veteran team like Tampa, who's been in this for the last 2 years, understands how to win the close games. Veterans like Steven Stamkos and Kucherov and Hedman and Vasilevskiy, 4 core pieces, what this team has built over the last 10 years, have shown why they're amongst the elite in the NHL. And the Rangers have a good future. If that's what the Ranger fans want to bank on right now, we have a great future. We've got a good young player like Adam Fox, who's already a star. We have arguably the best goaltender in the NHL right now in Igor Shesterkin. And by the way, screaming Igor is better when Vasilevsky's in the series made absolutely no sense, because Igor has done nothing yet. He's not won a Stanley Cup. He is not Henrik Lundqvist. I have no idea why anybody is taking shots, including the Ranger fans, on Vasilevskiy, who's been as good a goaltender as Lundqvist or any goalie we have seen in the last 10 years.
He's on a trajectory right now already. With the 6 years he's played, on a Hall of Fame pace, especially with the 3rd Stanley Cup.
He's a Hall of Famer. If he were to retire today, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, his playoff numbers have been insane, and the Ranger fans at Madison Square Garden in Game 2 chanting that it's only going to fire him up, and he played fantastic. Outside of probably that one soft goal he allowed against Ryan Lindgren, none of the other goals he allowed were bad. He was making some fantastic saves. Going back to the Toronto thing, which was pretty funny. The only thing you can blame Toronto for, Ranger fans, is their hockey team blowing a 3-2 lead against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Mm-hmm. So maybe if they win that series, they could beat Florida or Toronto in that Eastern Conference Finals. But we can't play hypotheticals here. Whoever's blaming the referees for that, the second goal was a goal. Unfortunately, it was kind of sloppy at first on the live play. You couldn't tell what was going on, but the puck went out of Shesterkin's glove after he made the initial save, and then Stamkos clattered into him. Goalie interference is when you impede the goalie of making a save. He made the save already. He just could not hold on to it in his glove. Then it hit off of Stamkos' leg and went into the net. That's not goalie interference. No blaming the referees for that. I think the refereeing in that game was iffy for both sides, but I don't think it was necessarily unfair for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't think the conspiracy theory of they're trying to rig it for the Lightning makes a lot of sense either. The league prides themselves on parity, for one. Number two, they'd love to have a flashy young underdog team like the Rangers, a young team from New York. I don't necessarily believe that kind of thing. The Lightning are popular, sure, but they're older. Fans are sick of them at this point, winning back-to-back Stanley Cups. A lot of the young players players that led them the way got traded. And the older players, yes, they played well at certain points in the playoffs, but they're not the same flashy speed team that they used to be. Now, they're still very skilled. They're still very good with stick handling and passing creatively in that system, which has been very good. But the Lightning as a raw speed team, they're not the same as they were even 3 years ago. In terms of the actual Game 6, the Rangers, I think, just played horribly as a whole. They barely possessed the puck, and they're lucky that game was as close as they were. Shesterkin, he actually played well and made a lot of tough saves, but did allow a soft goal, and that ends up being the costly thing. But I think he kept them in that game. The Lightning, it looked like possessed the puck 2/3 of the time in the first period, and then it seemed like for much of the game, their forecheck was just dominating the Rangers, and their defense never made adjustments. Their offense really struggled the last couple games of that series, and that's what cost the Rangers in the end.
Back to back years, a New York team has gone to the Eastern Conference Finals, and all 3 times they were eliminated. I'm an Islander fan. The Islanders, I could say, were cheated in Game 7 last year. There were 7 men on the ice on a power play for the Islanders. There were 7 men on the ice for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They scored a shorthanded goal, and that was the game winner. And I think it was in the second period. The Islanders couldn't score a goal, but you could say they got screwed. The Islanders had a chance in the third period to score and take it to overtime. They couldn't. That's good goaltending. That's good defense. To sit here today and say it's because of Toronto on why the Islanders didn't win the Stanley Cup against Montreal last year is crazy. Off the ice, that fan, that 29-year-old Staten Island kid that knocked out that Lightning fan, that was horrible. That doesn't look good for New Yorkers. That doesn't look good for Ranger fans. That doesn't look good for the NHL. That right now is a growing sport, especially here in New York. And we wonder, what are some of these fans thinking after a game? Why isn't there enough security at these events? At Madison Square Garden, at the Nassau Coliseum, at the Barclays Center, at the USB Arena. Seeing something like this at a major event has to make you think that the league needs to fix this. And what happened in this series had nothing to do with that fan knocking out a Lightning fan. I watched that series, and I'm not blaming anybody. I thought Tampa was the better team. They had the better goalie. They had the better top 2 lines. The Rangers were younger. To make the excuse on the Rangers got tired, it's a ridiculous statement. That's another thing Ranger fans are saying. Listening to fans all over social media not only attack me, but attack Islander fans for no damn reason. The Islanders have been eliminated for 2 months. Why are we talking about the Islanders? The fact is, the Rangers flat out lost. And looking forward, maybe they have a good future. They have some good young players. Miller looks good. Fox looks good. Shesterkin looks good. Lafreniere looked good. Keto looked good. Kakko looked good. I don't know why he didn't play him in Game 6. And I'm sorry. I don't want to hear it from Gerard Gallant at the end of the game on not explaining why he didn't do that. But that doesn't look good for Kaapo Kakko, who's an unrestricted free agent in the offseason. As far as the Stanley Cup Finals, Avalanche versus Lightning, I think this is going to be a fun series. Right now, the Avalanche is up 1-0. Tampa is flying high, knocking off a Ranger team that was as hot as any team in the playoffs. Braden Point is back. Did he look good in game number 1? No, but he's got to get his feet under him. I think Braden Point is going to play a big factor in this series, especially if this series goes 7 games. I don't think it will, but if it does, Braden Point is a great playoff player. He's a youngster who has proven himself in the last 2 years to be a big-time player. And Vasilevsky's going to have to stand on his head against this Avalanche team because McKinnon and company are as good as any offensive team, not only in the Western Conference, but all of the league, Speedy.
Yeah, and they also have more offensive depth than they had in previous years, too. That was something that held them back while they were getting knocked out in the second round a lot. They were a lot like a better version of the Bruins, where they had the great top 6, but really were struggling to find depth. Look at who the goal scorers were in Game 1. Andrei Burakovsky, Arturi Lehkonen, Valeri Nichushkin. These are all third-line players. And even their defense, a lot of them got better as well as the season's gone along. They traded for Devontae, got Bowen Byram, big role as a young defenseman, 4th overall pick. This is a deeper defense as a whole. Tampa had a hard time getting it going, and Tampa, like you were saying about Ranger fans blaming them getting tired, they're the ones that could actually get tired being a veteran team down the road. So they want to get this series going quickly. I think a long series benefits the Avalanche just because of that. They're a younger team. They're a little bit deeper this year. And if Braden Point doesn't get going, that could be very hard for them to be able to win a faster series. And because of a longer series, a 6 or 7, a tougher game series like that, I think benefits the Avalanche. I'm going to take the Avalanche to win it.
And Darren Helm, too. Remember that trade? This trade deadline was a big move for them, adding an offensive player like that. Also adds another different side of the game of hockey, not only with speed, but the way he plays penalty killing offensively in the power play, face-offs too. That gives them a completely different understanding of where this series could go. I like the Avalanche in this series. If they win at least 1 game in Tampa, this series could be over. Tampa has to control home ice advantage, especially what they did to the Rangers. They controlled home ice advantage. Whoever controls that in this series is going to win this series. I think the better goaltender, obviously, is on Tampa. Victor Hedman is a fantastic player, but this league is changing. Cal McCarr, he is the future of this league. He is an elite player. So is Devon Tames, who has played fantastic ever since the Islanders traded him, and the Islanders got a second-round draft pick for him. I'm sure the Islanders are questioning why they traded him, but they couldn't sign him. They traded him to Colorado. Colorado needed that defensive player, and they got him. And he has been sensational throughout the playoffs. So this team is loaded, and they're going to be good for many, many years to come. And Nathan McKinnon, special player.